How's it going, everybody? Bryan Alvarez here on Wrestling Observer Live. We are here every day, Monday through Friday, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, Sundays, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, Saturday mornings with Jim Valley, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 Eastern, Sundays with Andrew Zarian. And it is a happy Halloween edition of the show today. Hello, everybody. No costumes today. We did that on the Tuesday Bryan and Vinny show, and pretty much was about ready to go to the hospital when it was over. It was so hot. Had a wig. It was just pulling on my head. Anyway, if you want to see it, you got to sign up for that Tuesday Bryan and Vinny show for subscribers. WrestlingObserver.com, YouTube, Twitch, or Spotify. But here on the show today, we will celebrate Halloween with Lance Storm. Because as we've said many times, you can't spell fun without Lance Storm. And so we're going to do a fun Friday edition with a lot of news, including the Smackdown lineup for tonight and the AEW Fright Night Collision lineup for Saturday. Lots of matches announced for each show. I know many of you, I'm sure, will be sitting inside your house Halloween night just watching wrestling as opposed to walking around and getting candy and treats or tricking people, whatever you do on this day. So we'll tell you about that. And then, of course, we got a lot of news as well, including an update on Blue Demon Jr. and his car accident. The daughter of Eddie Guerrero has begun training to be a professional wrestler. We got an update on John Cena's final match and who is alleged to be there. We've also got an update on Jinder Mahal, who got surgery. Seth Rollins' update on his surgery when he is likely to be back. We got some AEW ratings news and plenty more. If you want to text us here today on Fun Friday, 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. Email f4wonline@gmail.com. You can also follow me Threads, Instagram, and Cameo at f4wonline. And I'm at Bryan Alvarez, X, and Blue Sky. Back in a moment with more Observer Live. The show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Fun Friday with Lance Storm. You look like you're a barrel of laughs today, Lance.
Oh, I'm so much fun today, let me tell you.
Man, oh man. When is your dog going to be recovered enough that you can sleep like a normal person?
I'm not entirely sure, but the recovery is at least 8 weeks before he's sort of allowed to walk unsupervised on his own. So it's a journey.
Wow.
We're just over a week now.
Oh, my God. I hope you make it that long.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, on that pleasant note, let's wish a congratulations to Mance Warner and Steph DeLander. They got married.
They did. I already sent them congratulations.
Yeah, Matt Cardona, Chelsea Green, Piper Niven, Alba Fire, Bronson Reed, Deanna Parazzo, Steve Macklin, Ash Bielegans, Priscilla Kelly, and more were all at the ceremony. It was a wedding-themed micro-brawler wedding. Figures of Warner and DeLander were made for the guests. And big fan of old Manser. He's been on the show many times. A good fella. And a wild man. So congratulations to them. Bright future together. We also got an update on Blue Demon Jr. So Blue Demon Jr. was involved in a car accident, and apparently he was serious. He was in intensive care, and he is still in intensive care. He's been there since Monday.
Ouch.
Yeah. So his this is the English translation of what Iho de Blue Demon Jr. Posted on the Instagram account. Father still in intensive care. We're reporting Blue Demon Jr. remains stable and out of danger. By medical recommendations, he remains in intensive therapy for specialized observation and follow-up. His evolution so far has been favorable. I presume that means recovery. We appreciate the outpouring of love, support, and prayers toward this speedy recovery. We know many people have tried to communicate with him directly. We ask for your patience and understanding. As the amount of messages and calls have been overwhelming, in due time a response will be given, and all shows of affection will be attended to. Next updates will be done by these media, hoping that you will soon hear news directly from Blue Demon Jr. So this was a very, very serious car accident, and don't know anything else other than he's stable, and it's been almost a week, and he's still in intensive care. So hopefully this ends up good news, but I don't know, man.
Yeah, all the best to him. Wow.
It's a serious one right there. So the second daughter of Eddie Guerrero, 30-year-old Sherilyn Guerrero, is now training to be a professional wrestler.
With Booker T.
That's right. She's part of the Reality of Wrestling training school. And I'm a big fan of Booker T. I mean, like...
I'm aware.
Yeah, I think, I understand people that aren't big fans of Booker T. But at the end of the day...
Specifically talking about his commentary. Most people like Booker T.
Most people like Booker T. But I'm talking about his commentary gig. And, I mean, to me, I want to be entertained. Sometimes he can be a little much, okay? But I think that one of the strengths of Booker T is he's playing opposite Vic, which just drives me absolutely crazy with the stuff that he says. And sometimes Booker will be combative for good reasons. Other times he'll be combative just to be combative. But it's never boring. That I can say. And of all of the things that ruin NXT some weeks, it's never Booker T. It's always something else. So I think he's an entertaining commentator. And I think he gets things over. And I also think that, I don't know if he's the main trainer at his school, but he's turned out some very good wrestlers, including Roxanne Perez. She started in his school and went through his school, and she was great. So I think this is a good place to train. She is starting old by wrestling standards at 30. Usually that's a little old to start, but she's going to give it a shot here. Shaul Guerrero, who was her older sister, was signed to WWE 2010 to 2014 and was in Florida Championship Wrestling and NXT, but never made it to the main roster. So we'll see how she does. All the best to her. It's a good place to train, and we'll keep everybody updated here on the show.
At least starting a little bit older. She won't have to be a 15-year vet before she's old enough
That's
to push.
true. If she's any good, she can go right to the world title. So that is a benefit. That is a benefit. In fact, if she stays there for 10 years, she can go right to the maybe the men's world title for all we know. So we've been talking about this for a while. And granted, nothing is confirmed until it happens. But Tyrus, the former Brodus Clay, was on TMZ's Inside the Ring podcast. He's now a political pundit. And he says 1,000% he believes that Donald Trump is going to be there for John Cena's last match in December. If he says he's going, he's going. That's by no mistake, the show being in Washington, D.C. He might even be in the finish. I highly doubt that. He might hit a binding resolution in the middle of the match. That's not happening. But I definitely think if the president says he's going to be there because as a fan, he is a fan and he loves it. Yeah, for those of you that don't remember, there's a very famous story involving Donald Trump. This was back in 2007, it would have been. It was the famous angle where Vince McMahon got into a limo and the limo exploded. And very shortly thereafter, Donald Trump began making calls to WWE because he was concerned and wanted to make sure that Vince was okay. That is a true story. Vince, of course, was okay because it's fake. And the idea was for Vince McMahon, like he was going to be dead. That was writing his character off the show. He was killed in an exploding limousine, and they were going to go all out. They were going to do a Vince McMahon funeral on Raw, and of course, that was the weekend that Chris Benoit killed his family and himself, and all of that had to be thrown out the window, and Vince ended up returning, and he was a character for years afterwards. But originally, like, that was going to be, and who knows, he might have returned from the dead at some point, but that was the idea of the Vince McMahon exploding limousine. I don't know about the idea of, and this isn't even a political thing with whatever you think about Donald Trump, but I just think in general, I don't think you should have presidents, political figures, etc. at your wrestling shows, because it's just going to make half the audience angry, and there's no reason to do it. And whatever you want to say about Vince McMahon, and Vince was a friend of Donald Trump, and Vince did put Donald Trump in the Hall of Fame. Vince did decree when Trump won the presidency the first time that, like, we're not talking about this. It's not going to be part of the show. We're not going to be talking about him in the Hall of Fame. It's just not going to be done. Because, whether he was friends with the guy or not, he knew that you were going to alienate a large portion of your fan base by having the president, pushing him as part of your Hall of Fame and this and that. And this new regime does not feel that way at all.
TKO does not agree with that statement.
No, TKO does not agree with that one bit. So if you end up seeing him all over the shows, well, that's TKO. I don't want to even say they don't care. They're happy about it. So,
do you think Vince will be there?
I have certainly had people rumor. I shouldn't say rumor, that's the wrong word.
Speculate?
I have had people speculate that both Donald Trump and Vince McMahon are going to be at John Cena's final match. And I don't know. I mean, Vince can be there. I mean, he can buy a ticket. I mean, there's a way to get him there. Whether they show him on TV or make a big deal out of it would be something different. But I've certainly had people in WWE who firmly believe that Vince and Donald Trump are both going to be at John Cena's last match. Back in a moment with more Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Lance Storm is joining us. If you have questions for Lance or myself, 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. We'll take some questions here in a while because there ain't that much news on Halloween. But we have a Halloween show tonight, Smackdown. And Smackdown tonight has Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre in a contract signing. Jade Cargill with a heel promo, her first major heel promo. She had one short one backstage on the show last week, but this is the big Because of You fans promo. We have Carmelo Hayes and Kit Wilson. We have Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax. And Ilya Dragunov will do a United States Open Challenge. Now,
well, that'll be good at least.
That should be really good. Someone had the great idea that, he should do this Open Challenge for a month or two, and then the man to finally accept it and beat him is Trick Williams, because they have a history, and it would be an awesome match, and I think that that's a great idea. Now, I got a question for all of you. So, I watch all these shows, and there's a lot of stuff on AEW where I can't figure out what's going on. Like, why is this person here? What's happening here? And then the real sickos get mad. Well, you didn't watch the third segment of Collision during the entrance. No, I didn't. Okay. But in WWE, they go out of their way to hammer it into your head to the point that it irritates other people because they do too much of it. But if I miss an episode of Collision or Dynamite, I can go back the next week and I'll be totally lost half the time, okay? If you miss an episode, if you miss a month of WWE programming, by the end of the show, you're all up to speed because of all of the recaps and reminders and commentary, etc., etc. Now, with that said, what in God's name is this Kit Wilson thing? I have no idea what's going on. It's like he had a partner. His partner vanished.
His partner got hurt.
Injured, obviously. And then, one day, Kit just shows up and starts doing these weird promos. And then he'll vanish for weeks on end and then show up again. And I'm like, what is going on here? Was this a segment on Main Event during a commercial or an entrance? What's happening here?
It was on the bump, Brian.
God, what is this storyline? Carmelo Hayes. I saw Kit Wilson show up last week and do some bizarre promo. But, what's going on here? It just seems like it's something that they're doing and they know what's going on and we don't. But fix that. I want an explanation this week. We also have Fright Night Collision, which is November 1st. The Ring of Honor World title is on the line. Bandito does not defend against the man who pinned him last week, Okada. Instead, he will defend against Mascara Dorada. Which, of course, they will say will be a great match. You're right. It will be a great match. But
and Bandito will win.
Why did Okada beat him and then Bandito does not have to defend against him? That should have happened. I'm sorry. Mercedes Moné against Olympia for the CMLL World Women's title, who I believe Olympia is actually Bandito's grandmother under a mask. I don't buy for a second that she's just some granny. Come on. She's a worker for sure. The Don Callis family. This one I want to bang my head against a wall. Okada and Takeshita versus Max Caster and Anthony Bowens. God. I can't think of a match I want to see less than that one. Megan Bayne and Marina versus Nixon Newell and Miranda Alizé, which is weird because Nixon Newell and Miranda Alizé showed up on the show last week and challenged Ty Mello and Anna Jay. And then, for some reason, it is instead Megan Bayne and Marina Shafir. I do not know why. I do not know what happened to Ty J. They have vanished. Gun Club will be facing MXM, Juice Robinson Austin and Ace Austin versus Johnny TV, Mace Madden, and Mansois. And we have the conglomeration, Mark Briscoe, Roderick Strong, and Commander versus Sammy Guevara, The Beast Mortos, and Dralistico. You remember Jose the Assistant?
Yes.
He's now Jose the Assassin. I saw on Twitter, he's like calling out Roosh. That's a bad idea, brother. I'm trying to think on the list of people. It's like calling out Brock. That ain't going to end well.
Yes, don't let your mouth override your behind.
Yeah, that seems like a really poor idea to call out Roosh. But he did. No, we'll see how it ends. The former Jinder Mahal, recovering from surgery. He had a knee scope done to remove 2 loose bodies and trim his meniscus. A scope is less invasive than traditional surgery, and he's starting the rehab process. So, do we have any is there a doctor in the room? If we have any doctors in the room, I'm going to ask a medical question here on the show because, what better place to, find out what you should do than ask a bunch of people on a podcast. So I tore my meniscus. It's a complete tear. It's as far as like what a normal human does in their life, it's like 100%, okay? But if we're talking like, sometimes I move it weird in jiu-jitsu and it'll kind of lock and then I have to get on my knee. Like if I sit on my knee, it goes back in. There's never, anytime it locks up, I just have to sit on my knees and it goes back in or whatever. So I probably could, get a scope or something like that to clean it out. I was told by one doctor that if you don't need to get the scope or the surgery, don't, because the more you do, the closer you are to a knee replacement. So I'm wondering if that's true or if I should go in and get it scoped out.
Well, in theory, the more of your meniscus that they take out, the more you're going to be getting to bone on bone. Right?
Yes. So I can live with it just fine. I mean, I almost never have any sort of problem with it, but it does get annoying when, you're in the middle of like rolling and you do a knee cut pass and all of a sudden your knee is locked and you have to say stop and you have to put your knee back in and keep going. That's annoying,
I didn't realize there was timeouts in jiu-jitsu.
Well, there's not unless your knee is all of a sudden like... I could just say tap, but we just put it back in and keep going where we were. You think I like to tap? You kidding me? Seth Rollins is out of action with his shoulder injury. He was on the Good Morning Football program on the NFL Network, and he was in a sling, and he said, I wish I could rip this thing off, but I'm out. Out of action for 6 months, he said. My world championship is going to be worn by some schmuck, either Jey Uso or CM Punk. It's awful. It really is a Halloween scary. So 6 months is what he's saying. which I guess would be November, December, January, February, March. He might make it back for WrestleMania. And knowing how these wrestlers manage to get back usually a little bit earlier. Although of late, it's been taking longer for a lot of guys. I don't know if they're just being more cautious or if they're making so much money that why rush back. But WrestleMania would be April, so he could maybe make it back. But best of luck with him on his recovery, because that sucks. And yes, there is a show with a world championship on the line this weekend. It is the Saturday night's main event. Where did that go? How did my Saturday night's main event lineup disappear?
Barrel on through, brother.
I'm going to barrel on through. So for those of you unaware, Saturday night's main event is Saturday, and Cody is going to wrestle Drew McIntyre as I furiously search for this lineup here. All right, here it is. All right, so Saturday night's main event. Why is this never easy? Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. This will be for the WWE title. I do not expect a title change in this match. Although, if you recall, there was that rumor earlier this year that they had some idea where Randy Orton was going to accidentally cost Cody the title against Drew. I was told that wasn't true, but we are right back here again, and you could do it. But I think because we have 4 title matches on the show, I don't think we need 3 title changes out of 4. So my guess would be that Cody is going to retain that title. CM Punk and Jey Uso. You know what? I don't care what anyone says. I'm sticking to my prediction. CM Punk turns heel, wins a title from Jey Uso, aligns with Paul Heyman, takes the place of Seth Rollins leading into WrestleMania. Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill. Jade just turned heel. They've wrestled 50 times. I can't fathom a scenario where Jade loses this match. I think she becomes the new women's champion. And Dirty Dom, Penta, and Rusev for the Intercontinental title. I think that Dominic retains. I think if Penta is going to win the Intercontinental title, it should be in a one-on-one match. Very much like we always talk about with the way TNA books. And I don't think the people care enough about Rusev to... I mean, they just don't care about the guy. Nothing against him, but you can watch the matches. They just don't care. They cared back when he was with Lana. And once they separated, it was just, they never cared about the guy again. So I think Dirty Dom retains the title. You have any thoughts on any of these?
Well, I think the only way I could see them taking the title off of Dom is if they want the title off of him, but don't want the AAA Mega Heavyweight Champion getting pinned. And if they wanted to just focus on him as the AAA champion, this would be, with a 3-way, the chance to get the belt off him without having to pin the Mega Heavyweight Champion.
All right, back in a moment with more, everybody. Send your text, 425-780-7566, Wrestling Observer Live. Back in the show, Bryan Alvarez here, Wrestling Observer Live. Lance Storm joining us here today. You got questions for Lance and I. I'll tell you what to do. Text them to me. 425-780-7566. That is 425-780-7566. We got some WrestleDream news. Dave Meltzer reports the AW pay-per-view looks to be in the 115 to 125,000 buy range. And this would be just above Dynasty as the lowest AW pay-per-view buy rate of the year. This was the Jon Moxley Darby main event. There were issues with a lot of different cable companies, including Xfinity. And, of course, All Out did 135 to 140. If you look at the numbers here, like a Revolution 135 to 140, Dynasty 110 to 120, Double or Nothing 122 to 130, All in July 180 to 185, Forbidden Door 122 to 130, and All Out 135 to 140, WrestleDream 115 to 125. What do these numbers mean? Well, who knows? But this is what I think, okay? So I guess like 2 years ago, Dave got some data from a cable company, okay? And the data from that single cable company indicated that most people only buy 1 or 2 AW shows every year. And I can't buy that for a second, okay? I just can't. If you look at the buy rates, they're all so consistent, with the exception of two, which I'll get into here in a moment. Like, every show does, like, 120 to 140, like, every one. So I can't imagine it's like everyone, they just happen to have this audience that all buys 2 a year, and it comes out to this almost same number of buys for every show.
And they never pick the same two.
It doesn't make any sense to me, okay? I think that you've got about 120, 110, 120 sickos that are going to buy every single pay-per-view. Now, we also had that argument on the show that one day about what would happen if AEW and WWE went head-to-head. And he thought they would be murdered. And I said they're not going to be murdered because they have this core group of fans, and they're going to buy every show. And no, they're not going to skip buying an AEW pay. These sickos are not going to skip an AEW pay-per-view because they want to watch Cody Rhodes versus... They're just not. Had a big argument about it. And then, of course, we never know because AEW moved their start time, and they never went head-to-head, okay? So what we do know is that there were at least 2 shows this year where WWE stacked the day to try to take views away from AEW. One was All In, and one was All Out. All In was the week where they did a Saturday Night's Main Event and an NXT show, and they had a Women's Evolution show on Sunday. They had 3 shows that weekend to try to take viewership away from All In. And All Out in September was when they had the ESPN debut with John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Big show, big match. And you know what both of those have in common?
AEW did very well.
They were the 2 best AEW numbers of the year. Not just very well, they were the 2 best numbers of the year. So, I reiterate, it doesn't matter. You know, Tony moves times and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, if anything, WWE running head up against AEW, I mean, if anything, it helps. So, I think we can put that to rest, but I'm sure it won't be put to rest. But 115 to 125 for WrestleDream was the number, and we'll see how the next couple of shows do.
And the next pay-per-view, they're rematching a lot of the matches from the low buy rate show?
That's what it looks like to me. Full Gear, and then World's End are the next 2 shows. And keep in mind, World's End was the one that WWE wanted to run head-to-head with John Cena's final match. And when you think about it, like when you think about it, it seems like, okay, if there was ever a show that was going to hurt AEW running head-to-head, it would be John Cena's final wrestling match. But even if they had run head-to-head, I don't think it would have hurt at all because it's 2025 and we can all watch whatever we want, whenever we want. We don't have to have 2 VCRs. We don't have to find some way to make it work, running to a friend's house. Just watch one when you want to watch it and watch the other when you want to watch it. So I think we've moved beyond head-to-head killing one show or the other. There's not enough crossover anymore, and the fans are so passionate and tribalistic that they are not going to watch the other show. So that's that. As reported by Bryan... Oh, that's me. They're going to be sending a bunch of the NXT women to Japan coming up in 2026. And where that is, I don't know. Probably Marigold. But they've been sending the men to Noah. And Shinsuke Nakamura, AJ Styles, Omos, Hank, Tank, Charlie Dempsey, Harlem Lewis, Josh Briggs, Tavian Heights, all did tours of Noah this past year. And with WWE doing fewer house shows, basically they got like a Christmas block of house shows and not a lot of others. You know, with that, it's kind of like, hey, you know, They're sending people to Mexico. They're sending people to Japan. They're sending people to TNA. It's all great. So I'm a big fan of this idea, and I think it helps everybody.
Way better than time spent practicing in an empty building. Get out there and get work.
Yeah. All right. Tuesday night's NXT. 527,000 viewers, almost identical to the week prior. 0.07, which is hideous in 18 to 49. They're still being murdered in part by Big Data Plus panel, but they also went up with the...
Was it the 18-inning baseball game?
Toronto Blue Jays and the LA Dodgers. I think that was Wednesday because it was happening during Observer Radio, I believe. But that did 14.87 million viewers and a 3.05 in 18 to 49. The second highest viewed World Series Game 4 in the last 9 years.
The thing that's crazy is the Canadian viewership is like 7 million, which is half, but we have 1/10 the population. We have like 35 million people, and 7 million of them watch the baseball game.
That's a lot of people, dude.
Yep.
That's a lot of people. Gable Steveson has debuted in boxing, and he won his debut in 15 seconds. So, something for him to do.
Knocked the dude out pretty damn fast.
That's something for him to do. All right, let's do the mailbag here. Actually, I'm sorry, text messages. 425-780-7566. If you have a question for Lance or myself, send it to me now because we got time to answer some of them. This person says, how much better or worse would this Tuesday's NXT have been with a Monster Bash? Would have been miles better. That's one where, you know, people really like tradition. We got all sorts of traditions. And by the way, you know something that it's annoying me that AEW is doing it because WWE does it, and it annoys me when they do it. It's like they now have Blood and Guts is at this point every year. This is exactly what we complained about with like Hell in a Cell. It's like Hell in a Cell is on this show. Actually, they haven't been doing it in the last couple of years, but in general, it was always like Hell in a Cell is always October. So therefore, whether a match deserves Hell in a Cell or not, it's going to be in the cell because it's always going to be in October. That's what they're now doing with Blood and Guts. And I think they shouldn't. It's the same with War Games. WWE is doing it with War Games. War Games is always November. Whether you need a War Games match or not, it doesn't matter. That's when War Games should be all of these matches. Blood and Guts, War Games, whatever. Hell in a Cell. They should be Anarchy in the Arena. They should be what's the word? Organic. Okay, well, these people have been feuding for a long time. It's out of control. It's time for War Games. Not, hey, it's November. Who's feuding right now? Well, let's put them in War Games. Oh, it's it's October. It's November. Who's feuding right now? Let's put them in Blood and Guts. I don't like that. But with that said, there will always be large men and women. And there should be a Monster Bash every year on the Halloween show. The original Monster Bash was in, 2007. I think they might have done 2, but I'm not sure. But it was basically like a 4-person battle royal and,
with 400-pound dudes.
four 400-pounders. It was freaking awesome. I loved it. I have no idea why they never did it again. I guess maybe they ran out of 400-pounders. We don't really have a lot of those nowadays.
Well, they got some good 350 guys, I would think.
I know, but they also limit them, so it'd be like the same 4 guys every year. Yeah. No, it's Monster Bash, isn't it? Filthy Tom says it's the Monster Mash Battle Royale. I thought it was the Monster Bash.
I would think Monster Mash might be copyrighted.
That's what I would think. Somebody find out for me. I could Google it, but is it really the Monster Mash? Should have been called the Monster Smash Battle Royal. All right, this person said, Tom says he found out. I guess it was the Monster Mash Battle Royal. Wow. Yep. Michael Booble, you're wrong. Tom was right. He says, I'm guessing Tom is wrong because it's Tom.
And the Iron Sheik version of the Monster Match drop song is the greatest song in the history of the Empire.
It actually is. I should have played it Tuesday. This person here says, Oh, God. I'd like for Bryan to explain exactly why Becky's DQ against Maxine was terrible, but Mox's DQ, in which Mox grabbed the ropes, by the way, because it should have been a rope break, why was that genius? I've been watching wrestling my whole life. I'm 41. I'm just lost. What makes her DQ so bad, but this was so great? Dude, they were two completely different scenarios leading to it. In the Moxley match, he had just quit in an I Quit match. He was embarrassed. He quit against Darby Allin. He's immediately put in a match with a submission wrestler. And this submission wrestler is so close to submitting him and making him quit 2 shows in a row. And he fights to get out, and he fights to get out, and he fights to get out, and finally he's trapped. And to save his fragile ego, he is forced to get himself disqualified so he doesn't have to suffer the indignity of quitting 2 shows in a row.
But I would counter that stopping a match and taking an L on purpose is quitting, and that's exactly what he did. He was afraid to continue in the match, and he quit.
He found an easy way out.
He didn't say the word, but he basically said no mas and got himself out of the match and took an L. It makes no sense to me.
He found his way out. Now with Maxine and Becky, it was just a hideous DQ because it was such... The problem was the way the match was structured. This match, she gave Maxine this incredible comeback. And Maxine is just going wild, and she's going crazy, and the people are going nuts, and they want to see her win. And if Becky, during the middle of all of that, would have rolled her up, put her feet on the ropes, and grabbed the tights to pin her, Maxine would have gotten so much more over getting screwed that way than Becky just running away, getting out of it. They're 2 completely different scenarios. You have to watch the whole match and the build-up for them to make sense. They're not the same. Back in a moment. Observer Live. The thing with wrestling is not everything is the same, even though it might seem the same to you. A count-out, just because you do a count-out, doesn't mean a count-out is the same bad finish in every single scenario, or a disqualification, or a clean pin, or a screw job pin. You can't just say, well, there was a screw job in this match and you didn't like it, and there was a screw job in that match and you did like it, okay? You know what I hate is run-in screw job finishes, okay? They suck, all right? But if you're going to do a finish to build to a blood and guts match, then it should be a run-in schmoz finish. That's the point. It's like, I don't want to see a bunch of people running in a random match, but if you're going to build to a cage match where no one can get in or nobody can get out, then maybe the right finish would be a count out, because no one can get in or out in theory, or a whatever, guys run in, well, the cage is going to prevent that. So it's the scenario. What was the point of the Jon Moxley match? What was the point of the finish? The point of the finish was for you to see that Jon Moxley has a fragile ego, and even your scenario, Lance, isn't hitting someone with a belt the same as quitting? Well, yes. So the whole point, whether you go by your way or whatever, the guy had a fragile ego. He wanted out. He didn't want it. In his mind, it was like, this is better than tapping out. But he's got a fragile ego. He quit. That's the point of the finish, okay? The point of the finish in the Becky match was to get Maxine over, because they're going to give Maxine a championship match. Maxine didn't get over with that finish at all. She would have got over a lot bigger if she was this close to winning, and Becky cheated in multiple ways to beat her. Now you feel like, you know what? If this had been a no DQ match or whatever, Maxine would have had her. You want to get Maxine over. So it's not the same finish at all, even though the words hit with belt are the same. It's not the same. You know what I'm saying, Lance? I went right up to the break. Go take a nap. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. Have a great Halloween. Wrestling Observer Live.